And speaking of burning fat, we were just talking before we started rolling, and I wanted to get back to it.
Let's do it.
Which is your fasting. You said that you're fasting right now. You're about 24 hours in.
Mm-hmm.
You said that if you have time, you're going to go grab something to eat, but maybe you'll just go straight through and fly to home. I find it really hard not knowing where my fast ends. Is there any sort of mental component to fasting for you?
You know, a lot of us have this ball and chain when it comes to food, right? We're just, we eat at breakfast, we eat lunch, and we take up so much of our mental bandwidth that can be used for productivity, for relationships, for self-development. But when I do interviews, when I interview other people, or when I'm being interviewed, I like to do it in a fasted state. Now, I didn't start doing that. It took me a while to get to the point where my ketone levels get to a point where I'm not feeling hypoglycemic and the symptoms of like low blood sugar affect me. But I don't really worry about because once you're fasted, for me personally, I don't start to get negative symptoms in terms of sleep issues and maybe constipation or whatever until day 3. So I'm cool going to 36 hours and not knowing, am I gonna have food or not? So it's just a way to clear the cobwebs, not have to worry about meal prep on Sunday. But the reason why I do it is I actually have a tumor biomarker that's elevated called alpha-fetoprotein.
Interesting. That's why you started doing it?
Well, that's why I'm fasting on a more prolonged basis.
Tell people why. Why do you think that and then tell us the exact protocol.
Yeah.
But give people a little bit of the background on the potential anti-cancer properties, what you've read. I'm super interested in this, so you can go as crazy as you want.
Well, there's a lot of research. People talk about fasting, first of all, lowering glucose and insulin. And so obviously there's many different cancer subtypes, and cancer cells metastasize and they mutate and so forth. But a lot of research shows that cancer cells can utilize glucose and insulin to thrive. So getting rid of those growth factors.
And insulin, I've not heard that. So the cancer cell can actually use insulin as what, a growth factor? Or?
It's a growth factor to kind of pivot their metabolism to a more glycolytic, so they're burning sugar instead of fats. And we'll get into autophagy in a minute, but insulin's involved in kind of amplifying mTOR, mechanistic target of rapamycin. I know you had Peter Attia on and you talked at length about this, but this is really the gas pedal for cellular growth. And so and I like to just pause right here and let people know I describe mTOR like a light switch in your home, right? It's not good or bad. It's the context that matters. Your light switch is great when you want to find something in the dark, but it can be bad if you're sleeping and someone turns it on. So that's where, every time we eat, even if it's a vegan meal or an animal-based meal, we're going to stimulate mTOR. So just wanted to throw that out there. It's not good or bad, it just is, and it's context. But getting back to your question about insulin, that could be the purported mechanism through which insulin may affect cancer growth is through mTOR activation, which just kind of fuels pro-growth pathways. Yeah, so getting back to it, glucose inhibition or lowering glucose down, lowering insulin, enhancing mitochondrial function. So a lot of people, I'm sure you've talked about this, if we envision our home being a cell, our home has different appliances, right? We have the refrigerator, the stovetop, the furnace. Inside each one of our cells, we have different appliances. They're called organelles. So they're little cells within cells, really, and our mitochondria play a key role in helping us burn fat for fuel, helping us think clearly, helping us move our muscles. And it seems that mitochondrial dysfunction is an upstream event leading to various diseases, from mild cognitive impairment to blood sugar issues and low energy, fatigue, things like that, but certainly cancer as well. So we got the mitochondrial function, and then for me, enhancing autophagy. So as I said, I do lab work. I've been doing lab work like, comprehensive metabolic panels twice a year. And I started to have this GI pain, and I could not figure out where it was coming from. And it was just like persistent. So after 3 months, this was back in 2015, I started to do some research on the internet. And I'm like, maybe I could have cancer. Maybe I could have something. And I started to look, and since it was in this region, I was looking for gastrointestinal biomarkers. So I measured those. And there was this one test called alpha-fetoprotein, which is high in people that have hepatitis or hepatocellular carcinoma, which is a metastasis of the liver. So I ran it, and the normal range is 0 to 8, and mine was 80.
Whoa.
So anytime you have a weird biomarker, just retest, because it could just be part of the lab. So I retested it, and it was 79. And then I was freaking out, like, dude, because I have a little girl at home, so I was nervous, right?
You're nervous because that's indicative of having this liver cancer?
Exactly.
Okay.
So because I had this biomarker, I started to kind of believe that I might have cancer. And then I started, like, on one hand, it was great because I was more present with my daughter, enjoying the moment, putting down the phone at night, things like that. But on the other side, I was like, I can't have this mindset that I have something, and this is common in Western medicine. You have autoimmune disease, you have Hashimoto. So people start saying, I have MS, I have this. And I think we need to realize that certainly our body can have perturbations, but it doesn't mean you're always going to manifest symptoms of that. If you can, the body and the mind and the diet and lifestyle are so powerful.